You're listening to Electric Blue. Michelle Jane Lee is a queer dom, painter, writer, poet, and chef. It's no surprise the way she describes the world of BDSM and kink as viciously poetic. To celebrate Michelle's new Substack titled High Protocol, where she shares her knowledge on the subject, I decided to bring her on the podcast. We converse about her personal ideology as a firm dominant, how submitting in itself is a form of agency, and we attempt to apply these roles in a broader sense of how we move through the world, asking, what can we learn from the Dom, and what can we learn from the sub, and what can they teach us about power? This conversation floored me. I hope it illuminates a series of discoveries for you. Hi, Michelle. How are you? How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm excited for this. I'm so excited for this.
So, I really want to get into just elementary what is kink and how do you specifically define it?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's like a little bit of a difference between like kink and the actual BDSM. So I would say, and this might be a little bit more of like the actual definition of kink is anything that's like a non like normative like sexual practice or like preferences. So that can like span a wider net, right? And then BDSM is kind of within kink because it's like non-normative, like sexual activity or preference. And BDSM is more tied to actual like power dynamics and exchanges. And
Hmm.
that's kind of at the core of it. Do you actually know what BDSM stands for?
I know the last is is it sadomasochist?
Yeah, so the cute thing is the D and the S plays like two different parts. So B is bondage, uh, D is discipline and dominant, S is submissive and sadism, and then M is for masochism. So it's like umbrella term for those things, and all of those things again are like tied to power dynamics, and within that there's like different ways of doing it.
Hmm. Oh, interesting. So kink over like the overarching umbrella of kink, BDSM is within.
Exactly that. Yeah, kink is yeah, again, anything that's like non-normative.
Okay. And then
Yeah.
how did you encounter?
Well, I guess in a way, like before BDSM, I've always been kinky. Like I've always been a weirdo, and again, we're just gonna like go all out. But like since I was a little kid, I don't know why. Like a lot of kids have fascinations with sex, but I had an obsessive fascination with it, I think,
Whoa.
understanding it. So I just think I was like born, and I also want to say kinky as in like non-sexual way too, right? Like kinky as in like I think like being a queer person, being an artist, being like a non-normative person could fall into the category. And I think I was born not normal.
Hmm.
It's like I've always liked things that wasn't like the path of being a good citizen, right? Like even as a little kid, I liked art. Even as a little kid, I was like super sensitive and again like weird fascination with sex. So like
How did this translate into your actual, romantic life as like a preteen, a teenager? Did you start expressing this
yeah,
curiosity with your peers or
there was like nothing romantic happening in my teenage years. And I mean not even yeah, it was until my 20s anything had happened. But I grew up in Korea, but then I moved to America when I was 12 years old. And I think I just was a very like that transition is pretty tough. I did it pretty well as far as the language goes, but I do think like I probably kept a lot of things inside just to like fit in to an extent. And I was also like very nerdy, just like studious. So like the friends that I had were similar, and
Hmm.
no one was dating or doing anything, whether it's like sexual or even like partying. So like all I knew at the time outside of like my own like private like like whatever perversities that were inside of me, the outside world was like so wholesome and like nerdy.
Oh.
And I think I understood like they're just like separate things. And no one, again, no one was talking about it. None of my friends talked about sex. Like we never talked about sex in my teenage years because it just wasn't something we felt accessible to or in a way like interested in that setting.
Hmm.
Yeah. But I think it's very different. It was a very different for a lot of other people. That's what I learned later on. That like some of the kids at my high school were having sex. I'm like, you were having sex.
Yeah, no, I mean, I felt very similar. I was very me and my, well, I mean, my friends kind of were more, I just was a super late bloomer, like I really
Same.
didn't engage for a while. Okay, so then when did you actually start oh,
Yeah.
participating in exercise? When did you start understanding
I,
the word community?
I would say that like like my early 20s when I was like starting to like, see people and like have relationship and have sex. So much of it at first was like romance, like I think it was about just like falling in love and you are not like familiar with like how good sex can be yet. So
Mhm.
it doesn't become an obsession, if that makes sense. Like just because like it's not all encompassing because you're 21, 22, and you're having like mediocre sex. Like it's fun, you're doing this thing with somebody, but you're almost like having it's more interesting to like hold hands and like fall in love, right? And like that was a focus, but I did have a partner when I was 24. I still like very distinctly remember where it was like physical like and like emotional awakening where sex was like so mind-blowing, and I was like, oh, this is like what I have been thinking about and dreaming of all my life since I was like 5 years old. That sounds weird, but it's I just was like, this is like what I need, and this is exactly why I've been obsessed with it, and I want the rest of my life to be about this feeling.
Wow. Well, okay, can you describe how you feel that feeling? Like, what does it feel like for you?
It was just like, explosive, and it was the intensity of it was something that I never felt ever in my life, and like, and I think I've always been, and I still always chase intensity, and that's not only in sex.
Mhm.
But that's when like I realized again, like rightfully, correctly, I think I've always like had a hypothesis, like sex is it. Like I just did as a human being. And then like that was a moment where like your experiments like finally came together, like, oh, it really is. Like it makes you feel so fucking good. It makes you feel so connected. It's all you can think about, it's all you want. And then now like that's fucking go.
Wow.
Yeah. And like that moment. Yeah, I think was like transformative for me. And I just was like, I need to ensure that every encounter I have is this and then better.
Wow. And at that point it was still pre you exploring.
Like, yeah, kinky or like being in part of BDSM. But I think that intensity though is like, beyond. So like vanilla sex is what we call sex that is, not kinky or like has any sort of BDSM. Um, and I think that's like what vanilla is to people's very different. But I do think like this in some way already I went above it and the intensity of it and then just like the obsessiveness of it and just whatever was happening there without us using the language for it, it definitely felt like beyond just regular sex. And I just didn't have a language for it yet, right? But then as like things moved forward, I also as I became more of a confident person, it was very obvious I was like a very dominant person. And again, not just within sex, but like how I navigated my life, and that was coming into sex naturally too. So yeah, like I discovered my dominance, like I think at the same time within my life and within my sex as I had more experiences.
Oh, interesting. So dominance was something that kind of had to be opened, or like it's something that grew inside of you. It wasn't something you naturally, well, I don't want to say naturally because it naturally was inside of you, but it
Yeah,
didn't
yeah.
express itself until these kind of.
Exactly. Until I had experiences that like made me feel that power. And then like it was, before that I never felt the power. But when
Ooh.
I felt it, it was so fucking natural. I was like, oh, I like own this thing. And then I was like, I want more of this and I need more of this. And the thing that I've learned when I do talk to people that are more submissive or even like switchy, they don't feel this thing in them where they're like, oh my fucking God, I need to like, I need more power and control. Like they will like, they can play like they can be toppy or dommy for different situations, but it's not like from the center of them. But the second that like it unlocked, I was like, oh my God, this is just like completely who I am. And even before, I always was a very stubborn child person that always had to do that kind of things my way. But like I also always had like something that stopped me, parents, school system, teachers, right? But then like when I got to an adult age, all those boundaries were gone and I'm like, oh, I can dictate my own life. I can decide how far my power goes, and like which we'll talk about later, but that's why consent and the negotiation of what that looks like is so important because like I am always deciding what that limit is, right? So it's at the end, it's like limitless, but within like personal private dynamics, it's important to know that like I don't push somebody else's. Because like for me, I can like I can just keep going. Because the second that I get, the second I feel it, it grows. The second it grows, I'm like, this feels so good. I need more. And then when I get more, I'm like, it's like, what's that? It's like that inside of me. That's how I feel inside all the time, Aletta.
Wow, this is so interesting. Like the concept of like, okay, feeling this type of feeling power, feeling this sensation, but like it feels when you describe it, it feels like it transcends even your physical body. It like
Oh,
becomes
absolutely.
a I just never have thought I never thought about power in that way.
Yeah,
I
interesting.
never,
Yeah,
yeah.
I don't know what that means because I just feel it, right? So I think it's
Ooh,
curious and fascinating. But again, I have rarely met people that know this feeling. But
ooh.
it is bigger than me. I mean,
Oh,
it is,
wow.
yeah, it's an energy. It is like an entire space. It is an entire universe. I mean,
Oh my
it's
God.
crazy. I don't know. It's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy to have this kind of like, I'm like a pressure cooker. You know what I mean? All the time. Which I think explains why I live how I live, and not only, with sex and kink, but like I need to like make sure that I am always like able to do like what I need and want to like kind of like keep myself like happy and like controlled. I
Hmm.
think anytime like something controls me, I'm so unhappy and I can't like function. So I've had to get rid of all like walls and boundaries. That's why I'm a fucking painter and a poet. Like that's stupid, but I am because no one can tell me like when to show up or what to make. I can't have anyone tell me what to do.
Ooh, this is
It
super interesting.
drives me nuts. I cannot have anyone tell me what to do. So I'm finding ways to like live a good life where I can do that. Just make my own life.
This is okay, this is so interesting. All right, now I feel like we're getting into like the kind of the minutia of like these dom sub dynamics that are really fascinating to me, especially considering I am a person who I guess I feel like I know what I am, but as you describe what you feel, I'm like, oh, this is super interesting because I don't feel that way at all. Um, but okay, before we get there, I wanted to ask, like, okay, so what is like, how do you describe, well, you did kind of in a way describe what it feels like to be dominant, but how do you
Yeah.
describe being dominant? How do you describe being submissive?
Yeah. And I also want to say like there's like not only like different like I would take definitions of it, but different ways that people approach it and like live it, right? So like with like my like actual writing, I try to have like a bigger overview, but I think for this conversation, I'm just gonna talk about like how I actually see it, right? And yeah, to me, like a dominant submissive dynamic relationship, again, like the core of it is like a power exchange and a power, like there's like a hierarchy of it, but it starts from like a place of care and place of agreement, and both parties having these opposite needs and desires, but then they're exactly the pieces that fit, right? Like submissive and dominant are at the complete opposite ends of the spectrum. Like I have less in common when it comes down to things that my submissive than I would with this one that's more like verse or middle ground, right? But our actual extremes make us perfect for each other.
Hmm.
Which, like, as an intense human being, I even love that poetically, the fact that we are the furthest from each other and that makes us have to come together. And I think like that element of it is so powerful to me that we have this thing that we both need that we have none of inside of each other and
Oh,
only the other person can fill it. is crazy, right? Just as a concept is crazy. So like that's like where I feel it in my like soul. Like you are something I need. And like
Ooh.
that's a hard thing to actually like find or even like feel like as an independent woman person, queer person, capable person like 2025. There's very little I need from somebody else. Even
Mm.
in relationships, even in like regular sex, I like need no one. But
Oh,
I need a submissive because they're the only person that can accept who I am. And it's what they want as well. Like that's crazy to me. You know, and I feel like we're both gonna cry already. Um, but yeah, and so it's like so as a dom, like I have this like desire and need to exert power, right? And like control to some extent as well. I need this place to like this whatever thing that we've talked about that is like so big. There's a vessel that I need to go into.
oh,
And a submissive is somebody that wants to feel that overwhelming power from somebody and receive it,
oh,
and be the vessel. But again, like consensually with complete want and desire. It's not like, oh, I guess that's okay. It's like, so the way that I am as a dom, there are people out there as sub who are just like, all my life, all I wanted was to be covered in this thing and give myself.
oh.
So like to me, like to find someone that can take something that is so big of me and from me is incredible and like so like loving and tender, right? Because it's a lot. And not a lot of people can take all of it. And I'm constantly like navigating how much I can and how much people can take. But when you meet a person that is a perfect match, as you know, like I've had moments of it shatters your life.
Oh,
It's crazy.
wow. Oh my God. This makes me want to ask 10 trillion questions, but
We'd
I
ask you 10 trillion questions.
one that is like coming up to me, and it's, for the people listening, you just released a project on Substack called High Protocol, where
Mhm.
it's a study in kink and BDSM, but also somewhat of like, I would say like an exploratory playground of how to engage, at least online. I mean, I don't want to,
Yeah.
incorrectly describe it, but while I was reading
Mm.
were words and what even inspired this entire interview, I just was so like it just all was so poetic and so beautiful. And I think the part that stood out to me the most was like the surrender that
Mm.
is required as a submissive, and how actually that is such an intense amount of power in itself.
Absolutely.
I don't know. It actually started
Yes.
breaking my brain a little bit, because I was like, I've always kind of associated being submissive as someone being lower, as someone that
Mm.
I don't know, just someone who doesn't like power, someone who likes to be told what to do. And maybe in some ways it is that. But while I was reading what you were saying and the way you even describe it now, I'm actually realizing how being submissive and being dominant are actually equal playing field.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
different experiences that the person is going through. And I just like, I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And that's just such a, I mean, I think that's part of why. So, like, thankfully, within kink and BDSM community, it is known submissives hold power. Like, that's something that is like most people know. Of course, except for like, there are always going to be like problematic, shitty doms who take advantage and like don't think that way. But like, thankfully, it is a pretty like, well-known thing. But partially why I made this Substack, partially why. I am becoming more and more vocal about kink and BDSM is because there are a lot of like misunderstanding or just like people just don't know about it, right? And because it is so important to me, I just want to make sure that people do at least know what it is before judging or before deciding it's not for them, right? But what you're saying is so like submissives, like to submit, to surrender, it is an act of agency, number one, first. It is a choice. Like it is a choice first and foremost.
Hmm.
It is not something they fall into. Like true submissives don't fall into it. It's like this, it is what they want. And they're coming to you saying, this is what I want, and I want you to give that to me, and I will only accept that. And submissives can be like, you're a bad dom. You don't do what I want you to do. They again also have that power, and they have the right to say, you don't do it for me. And I don't just even mean sexually, but in a lot of different ways, right? So like, and yeah, it's submissives that I think like really embody and like live this lifestyle, like know that, and like hopefully they all do. Yeah, they're just like they get to say exactly what they want. How fucking powerful is that? And
Wow.
only accept that. They're like, I only want this kind of dom, you know. I want you to do this much to me. I'm gonna take this much. I can take this much. Like how fucking like that's so powerful. Yeah, so powerful.
Wow. I mean, okay, so like what you said actually really alarmed
Mm,
me, saying like being submissive is a choice. It's not something you fall into. And I feel like perhaps a lot of, being like, a straight heteronormative
yeah,
woman who's attracted to men, it's like I think I fall into that
right.
easily, and it's like
Yeah, yeah.
what if I do have more dominant side? I don't know. To me, I'm just like, oh, how interesting. Like, because to me, when I'm hearing about submission, I just think I just like it feels like water rushing over me. It feels like transcendence. I'm like, oh, this sounds like the most gorgeous experience in the world to like to um to surrender, to like to that be your thing. You are constantly in surrender. I just think that's the most, oh my God, it's so beautiful to me. But I also wonder, I'm like, wait, but there's also this whole untapped side of myself that I think
Right. Yeah, I know. We've talked about that so much.
is dominant.
I'm
Um,
curious and excited for you to tap into that and have those conversations for
but I
our part two. And when Helena tells us about topping.
I wanted to ask, like, do you think, how does a person discover what they are? Do you think people can change,
Oh,
like, down their life? They're like, oh, actually, I think I want to be this. Or do you think it's something pretty interior that, like,
yeah, I do think that we all have like kind of what we are, right? And again, we're not talking about sexually or a kink only.
Mhm.
Like we have like some people are more passive and there's like no judgment right or wrong. Some people just are more passive and they're happy like that. Some people are more dominant, they're happy like that. And I think but I think there's like a smaller percentage of people that are very much one or the other, but a lot of people do exist in the middle space. Most of the people that I do know actually identify as like like verse or like they can kind of go both ways and that genuinely are happy to do so. So I think if you are that, you can kind of jump into different sides and play around and see what feels good, which is in a way kind of like what you're saying, like you are like fascinated and want to engage and can be happy in both. So I do think that we are like kind of made how we are, but again, not everyone's made with as extremes. I think
mm,
I can only be a dom. I can only be a dom. I don't know if you've ever taken that BDSM test or just like fun.
I did for the first time.
I am 0% submissive. I have never met somebody, never, even like people that are leaning more, I've never met someone with 0% submissive. And I am. So I could never even, I couldn't. And there's somebody out there who's like 0% dom. So like we can't be anything else. But again, people, yeah, I'm 0% submissive. It was, I was like, okay.
Wait, but you know what's so interesting about that is I feel like I would hear that about somebody. I'd be like, oh, I mean, this is also my ignorance because I don't really know too much about this. I'm like, oh, this is someone who's like hard to get along with. This is someone who like only wants their way. When
Yeah,
you're actually such a caring, involved, like I would never like you
yeah,
you don't like
yeah,
when you think about like rising signs and sun signs, like your rising sign does not seem dominant. It doesn't seem submissive, I'll say, but it doesn't
right,
seem
right.
0%
Yeah.
submissive to me.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually I love that because like something that I used to always say, like, because there are people that posture very dominant,
Huh.
not only men, but within the queer worlds, and especially people that identify as like daddies or doms in the queer world, like to like act really tough. But I was telling my ex sub, like when we first met, she was like, I didn't like think you were a dom. Like because then before I had like the curly, like kind of puppy dog hair.
Yeah.
I'm very like. hello, like I have my thing, but I'm also like I don't like pretend to be something else. And then she's like, and then like you're like the scariest dom I've ever had. 'Cause she told me like she's like I used to like date people based on how like criminal they looked because she thought they could dom her. And I told her I was like I don't posture or like try to look tough because I know I'm fucking dominant. Like I don't have to like go around my every day being like, get out of my way, like blah blah blah. I'm just like myself because when it comes down to it, and if when I need to, I can exert that power. Like I don't need to go through my entire day being the most powerful person because your day-to-day interactions don't need that. Like I don't need to like overpower you.
Oh,
You know, I
wow.
love my friends. I love cute puppies. I love pretty things. I squeal. I take forever to get ready. I don't fucking, my days I can be whatever, but like I have the power in me, and the second that it needs to come out, I know 1,000% I'm the scariest, most fucked up human being that exists in this world. So day to day, I'm just like, hello, I'm a fucking whatever. I'm a fucking fairy. I don't give a shit.
Whoa. Oh my God. Wow. Wow. Okay, immediately you're making me think of like, okay, let's say I am somebody who does want to exert being dominant more. Where do you think I should start?
Wow. Whoa. Okay. That's an interesting question. That's an interesting question. I'm just gonna, this is like a bad answer, Noah, because I'm not giving an answer, but I literally can't tell you that because I don't know like where your source of power is and
Ooh.
which one of those you want to exercise. I mean, if you and I have a conversation and you tell me these things, I think I can actually help you, like figure out what that is, but there's so many different ways and places that can happen.
Oh, well, you already kind of answered the question a bit where you said you have to identify what source of power you want to source from.
Yep. Yeah, yeah, and I can't tell you what that is yet because I also don't want you, again, I don't want you to fake it.
Ooh.
You know what I mean? Because again, I could just be like, well, you just, you pick up a paddle, you beat the shit out of a dude's ass. I don't fucking know. Is that really like, is that authentic to you? Or is it what you want? And if we're talking more in the terms of like kink or like BDSM, like, yeah, is it like impact play, like hitting someone? Does that make you feel powerful? Or is it like restraints and bondage, like holding someone down? Like, I don't know, Helena. You tell me. And is it about like exerting actual like physical power or is it mental and emotional? So
Ooh.
like when you decide that, then I could probably guide you, but I'm just not gonna come at it and being like, here are the things you do. You don't just like pick up a paddle, you don't just pick up a, cuff. I'm not gonna like be like, then you're a dom. To me, that
Mhm.
because to me again, being a dom is not a costume or a scene. And for some people, it is an in and out. They just play scenes and play a thing, which is also like valid. But my approach, my philosophy is so like embedded in like actual like who you are and
Wow.
be authentic in that moment. I can't just give like instructions without really knowing where
Ooh.
your power and what power.
This is super interesting because it's it is like that's super interesting. Like it is something that is expressed from deep inside of you. It is like a true chord of like energy being expressed. It's not, and I think again, like me not knowing so much about this world, I think it can be like, oh, it's a series of actions, it's outfits, it's blah, blah.
Right, right, right.
No, this is actually like a very
Yeah,
internal
absolutely. Yeah, but I think like just because of that doesn't also mean you can't engage. I think you just have
hmm.
to think of like kink and BDSM as like a toolbox. So again, like first ask yourself like where is it that I want to exert power and how? And then we can match you again to like different types of fetish, different types of kink, different types of act, different types of implements, different types of like dynamics. It's all there. It's literally available everywhere once you decide. But again, I just don't want people to go into it being like, I'm good, I should just do this thing.
Yes.
You know what I mean? But like you should also not be afraid or be like, like intimidated by it because it's just like tools available to you. Like you get to decide. They don't tell you how to use them or that you don't know how to do it right. Like you decide and then you can pull anything from BDSM and kink and
And
use
then
it.
so what is, because as you're saying this, I'm like, oh gosh, this feels actually very psychological. And like once you are able to pinpoint these things, I'm sure there is a type of release, obviously, pleasure, but I feel like something else must happen to you when you are able to exercise these things inside of yourself.
Yeah. That's the so it's not it's really that's the thing to me what makes BDSM and kink beyond like sex. Like sex feels good, pleasure feels great. Like, we know like vanilla sex to even like kind of like even within that something that's like more fun or like, extreme. But like it sort of starts and ends, I think a lot of people with like orgasm, like more of a physical thing, and then you're like, "Oh my God, I came. That was great." But that's like not even like the beginning of like kink and BDSM sex and connections to me. Like it's not just the physical, it is about the mental and the emotional side of things because you're being pushed physically and you're being like pushed mentally as well to like yeah, find something within yourself, like to surrender for submissive and for a dom to like really like, like pull within themselves like this power and control and like in this like very like narrow moment, like couple hours with this one body, like putting that all onto that moment is like explosive. I mean, if that makes sense, like it's like and also not all of this, people don't always have sex mixed with like BDSM. I can't separate them.
Mhm.
Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, it's like it's sex meets again, when you were earlier, when I talk about my powers, it feels like it's like something bigger than just like my body. It's like sex meets whatever that like giant thing that I carry with me, that universe with me, and I'm like putting it into that moment. So imagine it is like it is a fucking billion-pound stone rock of a fucking like intensity, and I am like I'm squeezing that inside of that moment with somebody. It's nuts. And that happens. Like, I mean, I've had like interactions, encounters where it's like they're like, I basically saw God, I almost died, I came back to, and they're like, what the fuck just happened? And there's a thing called subspace, which basically like submissives will go into and they can be taken to that space physically, mentally, emotionally, usually like a mix of everything, where it is like a scientific thing. Like you start to release like different serotonins and dopamines from your body, that you actually go into like a drug haze. Because from like whether it's like impact or things happening to your body starts like release more things to like make sure that you're safe. And then you're being pushed to certain limits that like, yeah, you go into this like muddy puddle state of being like drugged from sex and different like acts that happen.
And does a dom enter somewhat of a space like that? Obviously different.
Some people do. I would say I like when I see like a puddle of a person that is now like in this like haze, like I mean it's like euphoric for me and like it's like very like loving. I just feel like I feel like so much. I feel like yeah, euphoria. Like I did that to that person and they're so happy and they're so protected. They feel so safe. And then I just feel like incredible. And I would say like for a dom, and some people, this is an interesting like topic, I think within the community too. Like people are like, oh, do doms get to have a dom space? What does that look like? But something that made the most sense to me is like doming, you almost get into more of a flow state. So it's a different meditative, different mental state too. Like from like, like whatever acts you're doing, you just like get lost in that too. And it just feels like, again, like otherworldly in a different way than a surrender.
Whoa.
Yeah. Yeah. It's incredible how it's
Okay. And now I want to ask, because as you're describing all of these feelings, I'm like, oh, a part of it kind of reminds me of the experience of making art. And you're also a visual artist, you're also a chef, also
yes.
a poet, a writer. Do these experiences you have also show up when you're making art, even though that is somewhat of an individual process, or are they totally different?
I think they all like function under the same system. I would have to say almost like I wish, making art alone, I wish when I'm writing the thing felt as intense, but I do think the introduction of another person that like really exponentially changes that. But when I do approach how I approach painting, writing, all of that is about like discipline and like power. I like to, there's this like poem where I think I read it, maybe you've been at one of my readings, where there's like a line that says, I like to feel like God when I'm fucking you. But that's why I am a painter. That's why I'm a creator. I write. I want to create. I always want to feel like God.
Hmm.
I don't want, again, I don't want someone to tell me what to make. I want to make something out of nothing. I want everything to be something that I had the power to mold into exactly what I want. And like for me, like, and then the final, like whatever thing should be beautiful, should be delicious, should be like amazing, whether that's it's painting, a poem, a person. But like, yeah, I think overarching thing, and again, like speaking of me being whatever power hungry, crazy person that I am, has always felt this need to have full capacity and right to just make something out of my own hands, out of nothing.
Hmm.
And I see it the same way. Yeah, I approach my art, writing, sex. All of it is just about like the product should be something so like powerful and like and magical.
Hmm. This is reminding me of something you said about, for a moment in time you had what you called your perfect sub. Now
Yeah.
you're sub.
Yep.
But, when you were describing the experience, you were like, it is like a level beyond love. You said something like that. And
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
haven't gotten that. I don't even know how to comprehend that. I just like,
Right.
what can you explain?
Well, but that, yeah, I think that's, that's the thing is like we know like again like what love, what sex should feel like, what like partnership should feel like, right? Like we all kind of have an idea of it. But then God, I don't know if I can express I think the thing that I love about like DS dynamics is the fact that again, like it allows you to go beyond anything that's prescribed already, right? And like so like I feel like most people live within like begin and end, right? Like again, like even with sex, like you come, if you're lucky, you come two times and there's the end. And we all decide that was great. And we also decide like we find the person we get along with, like they have a good job, we kind of want the same thing. Here's that end, we get there, we're happy. But with like both like art and like BDSM, like you decide there is no end. None of us, there's no end. You can continue to push boundaries and limits and intensities. And I think I don't, I can't exactly put into words what beyond or more than love felt like, other than that, when I felt it, I knew it was beyond whatever anyone told me love could be or should be, even. And in some ways, like parts of it's like disgusting and dirty and fucked up, but also like when when two people are willing to be so fucked up together and be so vulnerable and do shit that you are not supposed to do to each other, but that brings both of you joy and pleasure, and you're in that moment together, being like, we're gonna do this, even though the world says no. You are already like outside of like, yeah, the definition of like love and like whatever it's supposed to be, but it's so fucking good. It feels good. You're both happy. Then you're like, oh, this is actually beyond, again, like prescribed ideas of love. And like we keep pushing that. And yeah, I just knew I'm like, this isn't like what I was supposed to feel, but like I know it's more. I know it's more than that because I've never felt this fucking big and like this need to like make this other person come there with me this badly before.
Okay, you mentioned kind of prescribed ideas of love.
Yeah.
Um, and I feel like I want to ask this. What is your definition of love?
I oh wait, tell me yours first.
Oh God. Oh, I don't know.
Well,
Oh,
that's the thing we both know we don't know.
well, to me, I don't see it as like, well, I guess to me, I take it outside of the romantic sense. I think of it more of a feeling of like God energy, like feeling.
Yeah, actually, yes. Yeah.
But I feel
Yeah.
like what you were talking about is kind of like the idea of like partnership and being
Mm.
with somebody. But I am curious, like, do you think that do you think love and the space beyond love can exist together?
Yeah, so I think the space beyond love is not omitting or without love. Space beyond
Oh, yeah.
love. So like love was here, and then like we went and we grabbed love, and then we went beyond.
Oh,
It is with love, but beyond and more. Yeah. So yeah, it's definitely not without love. It is you take, you
I mean,
take
I knew that. I knew that. Like, I knew when you were saying that.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
actually really feel it to really like, whoa.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I mean, it makes me think. I mean, I just feel like all of these things you're explaining, they feel like remedies to the world. You know what I mean? It feels like a remedy if like we can exist in a space like this together. I don't know. Okay, when I'm asking like a bunch of different questions at the same time, but like I remember you would always say before you started High Protocol and when you would kind of talk to me about your experiences and this kind of lifestyle, and I was like, oh, this is so interesting. But you would say like how you did not feel represented by how kink and BDSM is kind of marketed or the aesthetics of it. You were like, you don't feel like it represents you. And you
Yeah.
know, I want to ask you why that is. Like, what about it did you feel misrepresented by? And two, how do you want to change its perception?
Yeah, yeah. I do want to say, again, it's like not a place of judgment, but like I have very like particular and like specific things that I like, whether it's aesthetic and otherwise. I think like the BDSM kink aesthetic kind of came out of maybe like 60s, 70s, like leather culture, like at the time, which was extremely like subversive. And even now, I would say it is so. And I think there are ways of like showing yourself as something that was like deviant back then, the options were less. But then because that's also like when it first came to like public eye, everyone sort of accepted that as like an overarching aesthetic of kink and BDSM to the point that as people continue to like as time went on and people continue to join that community because that's all everyone knew, people sort of did the same thing. They're like, implements look like this. When we go to like kink party, we wear the same harnesses because all we had was like the first look that became popularized. And I think there's nothing wrong with it. There are people that still are like really into it themselves, but I feel like people just think that's what it's supposed to be when they first start because that's all they see and that's all that's out there. And I just was like never attracted to it, just personally. Nothing against it, but it just wasn't my look. So like when I was younger and when I wanted to like discover or like actually partake in it and I would like research it, that's what I would see. So I was just like, oh, that doesn't feel like it's actually for me.
Mm.
So I think I could have been part of the actual community and had done more things within the philosophy of it if I didn't feel like because like visually and otherwise I was like, oh, this feels like just a different world. And I think it's like theirs and not mine. So it kept me from jumping in. But now that I got older, I realized like also I can like study and be part of it philosophically and like practice it without having to fit in. But I do think there's like a people do feel the pressure slash they like putting on like the outfits to feel like when I put this on, I am kinky, right? But that's not how it is for me. So I think it's a lot of like maturing and feeling confident to be like, oh, I am kinky. I just don't look like that, and that's okay. And also then now where I am now is like, but I also actually think that there are people that are like me who feel alienated because the aesthetic and certain like ways of writing and talking about it is very different for them. And I've met people like that, people that are like very kinky, people that practice it and have been for a long time, but they like never go to the parties, they never go to the things. They're like, oh, it doesn't feel like me. And I was like, oh, I think that we also want a community. So partially, we will like complain about it together and something just clicked. I'm like, why don't I try to talk about it the way that I want to and, like curate a look and a feeling that feels true to me. And it's not gonna be for everybody either, but I think there could be like 10 people, 100 people who knows that also like have been like really, really like dying for that voice and that. So Yeah, that's why I started it. Like, I don't really know where it's gonna go, but I just felt like I wanted people to know it's not like one way and not one look,
Mm.
you know? And again, some people hate how I do things, and that's okay, but I just think visibility is like important. And yeah, I want to be like kinky people can like completely white rooms. You know what I mean? Like and again, some people have been like, your house is weird. There's nothing here. And I'm like, yeah, you don't have to like it. But again, I want to be like, we can go to play party and it's just beautiful, like, white metal concrete pieces. Like, and some people will walk in and be like, this is ugly and this is not kink. I'm like, you're right, that's for you. But
Mm.
some of us want, some of us don't want. As you know, I like to say purple velvet. Some of us don't want purple velvet. And have I been to a play party with that purple velvet? No. And I just think there should be an option where you say no purple velvet on the form. That's all I ask for in this life.
No, that is so funny. No, but really though, like I feel like in a way a part of my own like preconceived judgments of kink and BDSM is associated with like purple velvet and
Right,
like
right, yeah.
those aesthetics. And I was like, doesn't
Yeah.
look like it's for me. And then I
No.
read your writing and I hear the way you talk about it, and I'm like, oh my God, no, this is really fascinating and I'm very interested. And I just think I think you allow a way into this world that I think it's like it allows the reader to be self-questioning and understand what, what are the roles of power in their own life? How do they exert power? It's just made me really think about, the structures we live inside. Because if I think about a sub and a dom, it's an equal exchange. The sub has to give that power the dom give, you know what I'm trying to say. But like I think of the structures we live in, and power is just taken.
Right, 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 right.
We're not we're not given the agency, or maybe we don't even realize we have the agency to be like, you cannot have it, or I want to give it to you. I think about it makes me think about all the different exchanges of power we have and how like I feel like these energy exchanges really extend outside of the bedroom. And like you already said, like kink is not just sex, it is beyond that. It just makes me wonder, like, how do you how do you relate to like the structures of the world? And specifically, like, we're living in a very interesting time in this country.
Yeah.
A lot of powers seem to be being taken away from marginalized communities. And I just wonder in the relation of being a sub, being a dom, like do you think these link in any way? Have you thought about their linking?
I haven't thought about it, but I think just even, you asking me this question and also you telling me how it is like informing you to like look out and these philosophies actually make you question and hopefully empower you too. And I think that's what it is. I think at the end of the day, like being aware, I'm not like spewing this like gospel to like convert people. I'm not like going out there try to make every girl into a fucking submissive so I can have more fun. That sounds great, but that's not why I'm doing it. It's like I just think like yeah, if people weren't so like if people didn't feel like this is a space they could even like enter just to learn, kind of what we're saying, it just felt like a very like insular society, right? Where people didn't know that they can like read about it or just come in sometimes to be like, oh, actually I can pull this from this community. It's like so powerful. And partially why I am writing is to be like it is more accessible, it can bring in different eyes. And I do think like philosophies and lessons in BDSM allows you to be like, oh, I have power. And again, like even like when you're like purposefully like stepping back or being submissive or like you're faced with like an insane like piece of shit racist whoever in that moment because it's dangerous and you're like, hey, I'm gonna exercise my power to stand back instead of feeling like they took it away from you. You get to say, I chose that. You get to keep yourself powerful. And I think, yeah, being able to like frame every interaction as like you are choosing is huge, you know? And unfortunately, like society, and we talked about earlier, like especially for women, we never knew we even had these choices. And like majority of people do think, and men too, they think submissive women are just weak and they can do whatever they want because we were never taught. No, actually, like all of these things are our decisions. We are all showing up equal and powerful, and we've only agreed. Like I'm allowing you to have me submissively, but like it's not because I'm weak. But people don't know that because they don't have the language for it. And again, I think if people understood what BDSM was about and take that philosophy, they would be, yeah, people would just be like, oh, like power is, yeah, agency. Like power is here and there can be dominant and submissive, but like you're both, it's a decision by both parties. And I think that lens is like super important. So yeah, for me, I think I can approach every situation and like really ask myself, and decide. And even, like outside of again daily life or sexual life, like there are times when I am like you said, I'm like quieter, I'm like this or that, but I'm choosing to be. But I don't feel less than just because step down because I chose to step down. And I feel like very, very powerful for letting somebody else take like, the lead.
Ooh, 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 whoa. This is really revolutionary, because like there are so many moments I just think of in my own life, the way I'm leading my career choices, my romantic choices, whatever. I'm making decisions where I am not acknowledging power. I'm not acknowledging the power I'm giving up or the power that I want to exert. I'm just like not even thinking about it. I'm kind of cowering away from the idea that a power exchange is happening, or I am just like giving it away. But the
Right.
idea of like, oh, do I want to give up the power? Not give up or like provide a container for someone to exert power on me, or do I want to exert? That is such an interesting question to ask oneself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Yes.
that small lens and that perspective shift is like what can like change everything internally.
Oh.
Insecurities, right? Like honestly, I like never feel that I don't understand really insecurity or shame because I know that like again, even when I lose, I chose or I participated. So I'm just like, oh, I lost, but like it can't take anything away from me because I have full authority and I was there fully. You know what I mean? And like and people can, again, like people can like be like, they can walk into my house or look at how I dress and look at how I look and be like, I hate how you look. But I'm like, I chose this. I feel good in it. So like, what you say doesn't mean anything because again, like fully had agency and this is my choice and I feel great about it. And you don't have to like me.
Ooh, oh my gosh, this is so interesting. It's just making me, I've been thinking a lot about my own relationship to decision making and how I really don't ever really want to make decisions. It's something that I have to.
Yeah. Yeah.
I kind of look back at, who I was as a girl growing up and kind of the programming that was sent through me. It's like, oh, if you decide, you lose your other options. It's so much better if you don't decide. Someone can give you something better, you know.
Oh, okay.
Always leave yourself open to get something better.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that like played itself out in kind of like romantic situations of like, oh, if I don't ask for what I want with the man, he will hopefully give me something better. That it's better to be given something than to ask for it
Okay.
and
Yeah.
not get it, or even expressing that you want it felt like dirt. Like expressing that you want something feels like a dirty act because you have to just hope someone will give it to you. That will be the best thing for you to get without you saying anything to anybody. But this is kind of like, oh my God, but that is such a, you're actually not giving power. You're not really
No.
giving
Yeah.
anything either. You're just stuck in this weird middle ground where nothing's ever happening. And now I'm dealing with that in my life of like, okay, I need to be more proactive and not like live in the
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
frame.
Yeah.
But it's like, oh, this is the act of deciding is just such a powerful act.
But that's like when you claim your power, right?
Whether
But
it's to give it or not, it's like both are
exactly,
powerful.
yeah.
That's
But
what's
then
crazy.
absolutely, but then you also have to be okay with the consequences of getting it or not getting it. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, that's a tough part, but but then again, when you don't or it doesn't work out, you can have this like certainty that you had chosen. You know what I mean? So you don't have to like feel like Because imagine if you're like wishy-washy and you didn't get it. Then you're also questioning like your own like own character. But at
Yeah.
least if you're like, I want this, you tell someone I want this thing, you know? And I this has happened to me so many times in my life. You know, I come at somebody or something, whether it's romantic or in friendship, and sometimes it's like too much or too whatever, but I always like name the thing. And like they can say no, and people say no to me plenty of times, but at least like I didn't like bend what I need and I didn't pretend I needed something else just like continue something that will never be what either of us want. And I don't know how to like not always be like I want the most intense fucked up thing all the time.
Oh, wow, wow. Because because at the end of the day, it always comes down to what you need. And
But
like that's how you are expressing how you want to engage in the whatever power play. It is based on something that you need.
yeah,
Ooh.
yeah, yeah. And you want the other person again to like want that and agree to it.
Ooh.
You don't want to trick someone or just like again implicitly be kind of get going along. And that's the thing, like, and I wrote about it in like I think one of my first posts, like the amazing thing about like BDSM, like DS dynamic is that it makes like what is implicit explicit.
Oh, okay.
And I think that's huge. But I mean, people are afraid. And I would say like it's not even about like yes or no rejection. I do think a lot of people are would rather not know.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Which again, like my brain cannot comprehend it at all. I would always rather be told no and be rejected than just like kind of I can't I would just rather know because then I know to like move on and I know there's something out there that fits me. But I do meet a lot of people, they're just like, if you don't
That's
say
me,
anything,
unfortunately.
yeah, that's so shocking to me too, actually.
Well, it's scary. It's scary to confront reality, you know? It's scary to confront reality, and it's scary to
Huh.
it's yeah, it's weird. I think because I'm someone who really can I have a very active imagination and I like to play out different scenarios in my head and it's like if I find out in real life that something is a no, it cuts off a possibility. It cuts off like a world of possibilities. But it's flawed logic because you know, if you cut off one possibility, then a whole new world opens, but from that new container of what is possible. I don't know. I think it's just a very like juvenile fear that has not really left me.
But
Um,
it's so it's felt by so many people. So there's, you know, I think it's like a very common and there's like no shame in it. I do think, yeah, I do think it's a very like normal thing to do. I am an extreme human being, which again, it could be good or bad, but I just am, so I can't understand that at all in my brain.
that's amazing.
But I do know it's a very common and very human thing. So I have a lot of like, you know, empathy for that. And something that I have worked on just in my personal life is because a lot of people I do meet are like that because they're actually human. I am trying to like understand those like in between spaces because when I was younger, if I didn't get a yes or no, if things weren't black and white, it like because I'm uncomfortable and I don't get it, like I kind of maybe acted out or just was like, then no, like then I'm not like I don't have time for this. I'm not gonna like, but now I have understood that's a space a lot of people are in, and I've learned to be a lot more patient with it. It was interesting. Do I like it? No, but am I working on it? Yes. Not everyone is just like yes or no in their brains. I'm like, what?
Wow, that's like I'm the total opposite. I'm like I need to live in like the answer between yes and no. So there's like no any. It's just nonsensical. Um,
I no, I do think it's sensical. There's something there too, but like
I guess, but if it's, I think what really stuck out to me with what you said was like, you know, a submissive has a choice, and when you make that choice, then you can feel that surrender. If you're not making the choice, you don't feel that.
oh, yeah, no, because there's always gonna be block. Like you have to like let that go first. You have to let that.
Gorge. Um, okay, what was my, sorry, I got this whole
I love this. I just love like talking though.
gorgeous. Oh, yes. Okay, so you wrote a piece. Um, oh, actually, this is what I want to talk about. Okay, so you wrote on your Substack,
Okay.
aftercare in training is not indulgence, it's integration. The body must register that intensity has closed.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, that intensity has closed.
Yeah.
I just am like, whoa. Like I've heard about the term aftercare, and like it being used in terms of like even vanilla sex or whatever.
Yeah, yeah,
But it really like reading that like kind of excerpt, I was like, oof, I don't feel like I'm taking care of myself. Like I don't feel like I'm
yeah.
doing what I need to do. I just feel like it's
Mm.
um
Yeah.
I don't even know if I have a question. I'm just like I just think that is such a beautiful phrasing of like
Thank you.
how to care for someone and
Yeah, 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 yeah.
how
Yeah.
you well I guess this like have you had instances where aftercare was not utilized in the way that it should have been. And
Mm.
did it thus like does it then kind of like leak out the experience? If you don't have a good like closing the lid to the experience, can it affect you
Yeah.
in your kind of daily life?
I mean, honestly, I haven't,
Oh, that's good. Okay.
but I've, I mean, I've read about people's experiences where that happens and it like really throws them off or they're like devastated for days after. So it only like, like reminds me how important that is. And I think that's so real because again, physically, emotionally, you went through something and like you are out of this world, in that moment. So I think that everyone involved in the situation has to have that like compassion, tenderness to be like, oh, we have to come back to this earth because this we don't live in that level all the time. And we have to both get that like it's going to take a second for each other to come to earth and whatever that takes. And again, I talk a lot about, and not just myself and people in kink and BDSM, like I don't know what that is like for you, how long it takes, and that's why the conversation before is so important. But we have to honor that because yeah, like we literally just like went out of space. You don't just come back, or we went, when they go like so deep down to the ocean, they come back, get to be in this like chamber for a while. Otherwise, like everything, you can literally die because like you were in this different pressure. To me, it's the same thing. Like we were literally out of the world. So yeah, we're both gonna need time to like adjust back. And like we have to do it like lovingly because we're in this like vulnerable state. And and again, I think it's an example of how this language in kink and BDSM can guide and help everybody that's outside of it too. Like even for you to be like, I don't know if I really had that because I hear so many times of like straight women being like, oh yeah, my whoever man, he comes and he rolls over and falls asleep. And I think that happens a lot because, and I can't like fault man for it completely because none of us were taught these were things that were happening to us.
Hmm.
And like you said, you've told me before, some encounters leave you really cold.
It's like,
And imagine some encounters have left you really feeling cold.
yes, yes, yes.
But imagine if like we were all taught again, like this philosophy, this way of living and connecting, like without like pushing it an agenda. Like I said, I'm not even doing that. But like imagine if we're taught what power, what dynamics are like. Imagine if we knew, like understood, like after sex or after anything intimate and like
Hmm.
intense, not even sex, maybe even intense, whatever, like we have to understand like the other person might need a second. And again, like it's just like this this language and this like philosophy, like you said, if we more of us knew about it, it can like fix so much, right? And I think this conversation and like hearing things that are happening within you is like proof to me
Hmm.
that like your daily life, even if you decide like, BDSM heavy, it's not for you. Like I feel like I already know, like when you're in a room with a man or whoever, I feel like you'll ask the right questions or demand the right things. And like that's incredible to me.
Oof. Yeah, no, I'm learning so much about like these invisible
Yeah.
power integrations that are constantly happening and you can't just ignore them. You do have to acknowledge them. But I think something that stuck out to me was talking about how, you go out of this world. I love hearing about this and I love hearing you talk about it because it reminds me that being a human is an intensely psychedelic experience, and I don't feel like we acknowledge enough just like how many different states of being we
Mhm.
encounter during the day or encounter with other people or there's so much kind of levels of transcendence that are happening. And I just feel like the world wants you to show up in kind of a constantly palatable
Absolutely.
state while riling you up at all times. When it's like, oh God, like I think, especially even just thinking about the way social media is designed right now with like the algorithms and like 10-second videos coming here and there and nothing's linear and blah blah. It's like, oh God, none of this feels like it has respect for an intense experience rising and an intense experience falling. So we're constantly in this weird agitated state, I feel.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. And that is a purpose of it all, right? I mean, I like the what you think of agitated state, but it's also still like within like acceptable, like boundaries of that, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because they're agitating us, but also like subduing us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, I think that's yeah, like you said, like there are so many levels of it, but whatever, whoever the men might be that are against us being human are constantly trying to push that down. And I think, even like kind of being like anything that's extreme or pushing something more intense, like kink can be seen as bad because you're going above and like beyond the normalized whatever you're accepting, like, again, boundary of like what interaction, sex, and like physical things should be with somebody else. And it's like a way form of control, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And in some ways, yeah, I do feel like and I think I talked to you about this, like this, like, with my birthday this year, I had this like weird awakening where I was like, oh, like I'm gonna be more intense. I'm gonna be more extreme. And maybe it is in a way like my like personal protest against like how the world is becoming. And I just, yeah, I just want to be more and more extreme. Yeah.
Oh,
It
well,
just,
it's already like having an effect on me, having an effect on your readers, like it's beautiful to watch somebody who, you know, has extreme feelings really just let them out because I think there's something that starts correcting in all of us, like a kind of equilibrium that's reached. When you doing this, I'm like, oh my God, like I'm learning so much about my own experiences that I would have had the courage to ask myself or even the knowledge to.
yeah, thank you. I mean, it makes me so happy.
Okay, and then I wanna circle to you wrote a great piece on your Substack about how kink and BDSM is inherently a queer invention and how to like separate the two is like really missing like the true link of what this like means. And I
Yeah.
just want you to talk more about why um just because I think we're just going through such a weird time and I wish we weren't.
Yeah.
I wish people could understand and listen to each other a bit more. And again, I'm like failing to ask a question here. I almost just like want to like leave space for like people
Yeah.
just to learn, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I felt compelled to make that post, not as like, also, I'm not going to stand and say like it's like 1,000% historically correct, right? That the first kinky person was a queer, but obviously, like subversion and being perverse in different ways is a very queer, I would say, centric identity. And like queer people felt the freedom from early set on because we're not like confined by the boundaries of like heteronormality.
Normativity?
Yeah, sure. I don't even fucking know how to say that dumb word because I hate it. I don't even want it in my brain. Because we never had those boundaries. Like I think like queer sex, queer relationships were always different, right? The power dynamics too. So like I have no doubt that that is like where it originated from. But made that post big part. It was like the second post that I made because I wanted people that come and read my Substack to know that I'm a queer person, that like if you don't accept queerness, if you don't accept queerness as like, like a revered thing, like get out of here. Like you cannot practice kink and BDSM without giving respect to queer community, which again has pushed so many boundaries outside of just kink and BDSM, just like what the world could look like.
Hmm.
Without queer people, like the world would be like a straight fucking one lane. But like we're the ones that have made this giant ass highway that goes in different fucking levels. And it's not only in kink and BDSM, but it is again in the way that artists live. Like let's talk about how many queer, gay, lesbian, trans writers, fucking artists have changed how you and I live. You know, and even as a straight woman, you are influenced by that, right? Like we wouldn't have the riches that we have without queer people. So I just wanted to be like, hey, make sure, and if you didn't know this yet, like read this and like do your study and know that like by accepting kink and BDSM, you're saying like queerness is something that is so valid, something that really set us on this beautiful track.
Mm. Ah, mwah. Gorgeous.
Like we wouldn't have what we have with that, especially again in the world of like arts and all that. Like, God.
Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. Absolutely. It is like so mind-blowing to me that, I just, like, I learned so much from queer people and like, they're the reason why I have so much more possibility in my life.
Right. Yeah, 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 yeah.
And it's so flawed to me that forces are trying to minimize that, demonize that when it's like, oh my God, this is the opening of one's mind.
Exactly.
Be something bad, which
That's
maybe that is something bad to them because then you have more possibility, more room to, like
right. That's so, yes, absolutely right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, it's so strange because again, like we're not like it's not about like changing and converting anybody. Again, it's just about facts. Like, can we just accept the fact that we have brought such incredible things to humanity? And yeah, it's like devastating and like, I mean, obviously it pisses me off to think that they want to erase. It makes no sense. All we're saying is acknowledge us.
hmm.
That's it. Like, I don't want you to be gay. Like, thank God. Thank God some of these fucking men are straight. Like, I don't want you in the community, but like just because you're not in it doesn't mean you can't be like, thank you.
Hmm.
Great. Like that's all like how easy is that? Like I
I,
literally don't want a lot of you people to be queer. I want you to stay straight. Please. That's not what we're doing. Like we look great, we have great lives. Like go over there.
oh my God, no, that's so funny. No, okay, so we've been having conversations about this, and I'm like, I kind of want to like sneak this in because it's
Let's
like,
do it. Sneak
no,
it
we
in.
might as well. I mean, we've been talking a lot about AI and like what,
Yeah.
world of tech and what's happening. And I just find as we're talking about this idea of being conscious of giving away your power or conscious of exerting power, I feel like these conversations are quite interlinked, given that I feel like a lot of us feel like a bit of our agency is being taken away with all these AI tools being shoved in our face and saying like you better adapt, you better change and like I'm on the ship of like I do want to learn about these things. I do think it's important people open their minds to it. But I also understand every critique, but to me I'm not someone who's immediately going to shun something, but I think the way it's being used is freaking me out a little bit. So I just want to know what are your thoughts on AI right now? Because we haven't discussed it in like
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like right now, I mean, I also agree, like a lot of how it's being used is frightening, but in similar to you too, I think you have to accept reality. Like
Mm,
it is happening. Just because we shut our eyes and say I hate it doesn't mean people with like worse intentions aren't already studying and learning about it and can utilize it to their benefit. And I do think like I think a year ago, even 6 months ago, I was very much like, I don't wanna know, like whatever, like I don't have to have it in my life. I'm just gonna, it is already in my life. It is going to be in my life. So I do feel like people like us, we have to be educated. We have to use it and find ways to use it in a way that's positive. And we've also talked about using it to be more human, right? Whatever that means, like we don't know yet, but I think that's a conversation we're having, which I'm really excited about because again, it exists. And I don't want that to be something that takes humanity away, but something that we can use to make us closer. And even when we first started doing our Zooms, because I don't typically do these or do video calls, but I was like, I feel so much closer to you because of this thing, this technology that I hate. And then when we started talking about AI, then we are like, how can we like instead of running away from it, like what's important to us and how can we use it as a tool. So like I think I'm at that place where I want to make sure humanity doesn't go away from it. And I know that only people like you and I can ensure we find that way. And
Mhm.
yeah, closing and shutting our eyes is not it.
Mm-hmm.
Currently no answers, but like, I just want to make sure. And I do think there's a way can connect us closer again as we
Mm.
wouldn't have this without, an advancement in technology. And I have felt closer to you in a lot of ways in the past like 2 months since you've actually been out of LA, right? And
No, exactly. I don't even live in the city anymore, yet we're having conversations that when we were in the same physical space, for some reason, just wasn't the right like container for it.
yeah, and yeah, exactly. And AI can be like, yeah, that container and facilitator too.
Ooh, this is so interesting. Yes, and I hope like it's not kind of blasphemous to say this, but as you were talking, I just kept thinking about you saying, your relationship with that perfect sub, it is like a level beyond love. And I'm remembering the quote, you were like, it is a level beyond love. Even I like have trouble understanding it. I'm just like, what if there is like a level beyond human that is human,
Right.
inherently totally human, but we can even go more in the direction of like who we are. And what if it's these tools that will help us get there? I don't know. That's the way I'm wanting to think about these things because I'm like, I don't think these things fall into our lap by accident. And
Right.
I think there's a reason why we are the humans selected to go through this type of weird experiment. And how can we
Yeah.
reach the other side feeling even more human? Can we reach branches of what it means to be human that is like untapped before, but it's
Right.
even more connected to the earth and ourselves? Now I'm ranting, but like, I don't know,
Um,
it reminds me of like, there's so much more possibility than what we're
yeah.
told.
Yeah. No, I think you just saying that also like made me think about like I mean like there's like a reason, right? There's like collective consciousness like why this is coming where it is, but also like people that are very connected to each other like believe in like past lives or again like meeting at different levels, like why not like future lives and future technologies as part of that whole like whatever 360 thing, right? Like why be closed off if you're open to past lives? How are you closed to future possibilities that happen to come with technology because that's what we have, right? And I never said that until you just said this, but I feel like, yeah, like I think there's something so human about that too, for people that are especially connected to souls and humanity, right?
Wow, wow,
Oh, yeah. Hopefully,
wow.
hopefully that, yeah, hopefully.
Ooh, wow. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Hmm.
Wow. Wow. Okay, I do actually have one more little question, and it's circling back to your experience as a Dom.
Okay.
You know, as you were describing the dynamic between the Dom and the sub, and specifically more for the sub, you were talking about how it's like, you become like a kind of vessel for transformation. How does the Dom experience transformation?
I think like the desire is so different, like what we're both looking for in that like moment. I mean, for me, it is also like a place of giving. And and I think like you know me well enough. I love to like take care and give, and even that desire is like so much bigger than I can in my daily life. And for me, like a dom sub dynamic, so much about that is me being able to give that person everything they've ever wanted. And like understanding it, and like as that dynamic grows, understanding what that thing that is before they even say it at certain point, and like showing up and like filling them more with that thing. And I get so much satisfaction and purpose and feeling like I'm being myself 1,000% when I am the person that's like giving and fulfilling. That's like what I want. That's what I want in like love, what I want in dynamics. Yeah, I'm a giver, and it makes me feel, and not in a selfless way. Again, it makes me feel great. It makes me feel like I have like a true purpose. Yeah. Uh, yeah.
Um, Gorgeous. I can't wait to re-listen to this. Thank you so much for
Yeah, thank you, Helen. I love you so much. Thank
sharing.
you.
so much. And yes, moral of the story, there's no shutting up anymore, like the world is supporting people who shut up and don't say anything, to let everything out because you letting all of this out is like revolutionary. So thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.